Faniта Inglíš is one of the leading figures in transactional analysis. She introduced TA to Europe in the 1970s and developed it with her own concepts. She received the Erika Berna Memorial Scientific Award in 1978 for originating the concept of episcript. Here she is celebrating her 100th birthday with guests invited from around the world. I was fascinated by this remarkable woman's contributions to the well-being of others, and she invited me to her home after her birthday for this interview. Faniita, how did you first meet Erika Berna, and what impact did he have on your life?
My first meeting was through his first book. So let's backtrack. I was a practicing psychoanalyst and getting very frustrated by the fact that I would continue with a client who would feel very satisfied with the progress we were making, although I kept feeling that we were not making enough progress and that we were going very slowly and going back and over all kinds of episodes. And the client felt relieved in having been able to talk about these events, but was not making any progress in his or her life, which was what I was concerned about. And one day, and I was talking about it with my colleagues and expressing my dissatisfaction to the point that I was almost saying that I was burnt out with the work. That the clients were satisfied, but I was not. Okay. And then one day, in 1964, a colleague handed me Byrne's first book called Transactional Analysis in Psychotherapy. The book was actually published in 1961, and I recommend it to anybody who's hearing this presentation. In it, Byrne demonstrated that it is not necessary to go back and back and back autobiography into autobiography, or as he called it, archaeology of the person, and that it was possible to help people work out their issues in the now. However, he added that we operate with three ego states, which he drew as three circles, and named in colloquial language parent, adult, and child. And the important point about transactional analysis is that we may actually enter such a condition at a given moment. For instance, I might be talking to you right now. Well, right now I am aware that I am talking to you with my adult, describing a theory. But I might be talking with you in a highly emotional condition and actually be experiencing my child, the child part of me that is still living even though I'm 100 years old. It's different from looking at my child who I was. It's being that child at a given moment as I talk to you. A little while ago, when I was so nervous talking to you, I was in my very scared child, for instance, and I reacted and felt as though I was a child. And then the question comes up, what age child? So then it's helpful to be familiar with stages of childhood development, because there's a difference between a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old child. However, I might enter any one of these conditions and respond and act with you in any one of those conditions at a given moment, if something gets triggered into me. The definition of these three ego states, then, is child, entering in the condition of a child of a given age, in the now, parent, entering into a condition like a parent, like whatever person I experienced as parenting me during my childhood. And lastly, adult, which can be compared to an adult, to a computer, to the way in which we might draw on a certain amount of knowledge and visualize situations in what's called reality. Reality is usually the accepted version of what's going on. For instance, when I say I'll meet you at sunrise, I mean at the time when we see the sun rising. This is not exactly reality from a scientific standpoint, but we all know what we mean when we say sunrise or sunset. And that would be the adult dealing with accepted reality. And in negotiating with each other, we might be negotiating or transacting, as Byrne said, instead of saying negotiating, from any one of these three ego states, adult, parent, and child. If any listener wants a more detailed description, summarized under what is TA, I urge you to look up on the internet the website of the Transactional Analysis Association. It's USATAA, two A's at the end. And you'll find a little summary of what is TA. You can either look it up in this website or in the website of the USTA Association, USATAA. So I'll spare you describing more of TA by suggesting that you look up the condensed description, which happens to have been written by me originally, but is now used on these two websites. Or else look up an article listed under English Faniта, Transactional Analysis. So, I have still not answered your question about meeting Byrne, because indeed his book thrilled me so much that I called San Francisco. I was living in Chicago at that time, and happened to reach him and urged him to meet a few clinicians and myself in Chicago when he was coming through, because he went regularly to New York. This first meeting was not a very happy one. We were not enthused with Byrne's personality. And there is a big difference between a genius, which I seriously think was the case with Byrne, and a person with all kinds of personality difficulties. However, this led me indirectly to signing up as the first student of the newly formed Transactional Analysis Association, which was formed in Carmel, but then later developed a branch that was called San Francisco Seminars. And that's about all I need to say now in answer to your question, right?
Well, I have a question about transactional analysis and about Freudian analysis. If Freudian analysis is concerned with a person's past, or archaeology as you say, does that tend to reinforce the past? In other words, would it help reinforce a person being stuck in the past? Whereas transactional analysis, shall we say, brings him out of the past and gives him a greater chance for change?
Yes, you're phrasing that beautifully. I couldn't say it better.
So how did you notice that people were changing more quickly for the better in transactional analysis as compared with Freudian analysis?
By focusing on their transactions. Maybe I should define that a transaction is an exchange in the marketplace between 5 chickens, selling 5 chickens against 12 eggs or whatever. So a transaction is something that goes on between you and me at any point when we communicate. And Byrne demonstrated that transactions consist of what he called strokes. What's a stroke? The stroke is physically what what the infant experiences at birth. The statement made physically by the person holding the baby, the infant, that I will take care of you. I am here to help you grow, to nourish you. So growing up means being addicted to strokes. And then in TA we describe positive strokes or negative strokes or questionable strokes. Positive strokes obviously are caresses and approval, a smile. A negative stroke is the opposite, hitting, frowning, whatever. And a questionable or stroke is something that's artificial, smiling at someone, but actually what's being communicated is anger or something else. So, according to Byrne and transactional analysis, which he developed further, life consists, or everyday life consists of exchanges of strokes. And problems occur when we seek strokes that don't do us any good, or obtain strokes that don't do us any good. And this is the basis for working in the now.
Is it ever possible for a person to become so mature, so confident, that he can give himself strokes without relying on other people?
To some extent, but that would be somebody who is narcissistic.
Really?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So everyone needs strokes?
Everyone needs strokes, yes. An infant that's deserted dies. So we cannot live without strokes. And we look for old strokes, some of which are not good. Byrne had a way of putting these complex ideas into simple languages, just as he referred to archaeology instead of dealing with the past. He'd say we all like the taste of home-cooked soup, even if there was arsenic in it. And we seek to reproduce the kind of soup, to reproduce the taste of the kind of soup we experienced as children in our relations with other people.
Right. Fanita, it seems from what you said that a person, as he goes through life, he continually needs strokes. So in the course of psychotherapy, how do you know when the therapy is complete, when the therapy is over?
That the person has more ability, first of all, for self-awareness, to recognize when he or she is in a particular child ego state condition. I can recognize, though perhaps even a couple of seconds retroactively, that I was being a rebellious child or an adapted child. Adapted means trying to please at all costs, at the cost of my own individual needs, rebellious, challenging for whatever reason or so on, so that I become more self-aware, more aware of what's going on, of how I'm behaving and what I'm looking for. And how I may be hurting myself in looking for the wrong kind of strokes. The home-cooked soup with strychnine.
Right, right. Fanita, as you look back on your life, do you feel that you have found the profession that is just right for you in being a transactional analyst?
Yes, that's very well stated, yes. And my whole approach to life changed after I started practicing as a therapist. I became more confident as I could see results from my new approach, and I found that I could enjoy it. And it became excited and fun and productive and satisfying to be working with someone instead of experiencing boredom, which often happened before.
So because you could see the benefit that people derived from the therapy,
Yeah.
you enjoyed it and you felt good about yourself.
Yes, yes,
You got strokes from that,
yes, yes.
from the fact that you could really help
Very
people.
many strokes, which I could give myself, or I could accept the strokes from my clients because they were real strokes.
It was the truth.
Yeah,
Okay, Faniта, thank you so much for sharing.
you're welcome.